stories. Let's see. Okay, I just might have messed up. But anyways, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to another Validated Prison Stories. This your boy Jo. Today, I got a special guest on here. But before we get into any of this, smash that like button, hit that notification bell, so that you'll be notified of all my content that I drop. Today, I got a special guest, man. Somebody that I know, I've done time with. I've spent time with him, kicking in the streets. I know this man. So go ahead, introduce yourself to the audience.
All right, my name is Joshua Beeheimer. I was born in Anchorage, Alaska. I was raised among Texas, Washington. I watched your first tape on time, Gangster Disciple, until I was enlightened to another form of life. And I'm just here to discuss it.
Now, I'm having a little bit of hard time hearing you, so you might want to speak up a little bit. I don't know if your mic's covered on your phone or not. Make sure you can speak loud and clearly so we can hear you. But you said you were a gangster disciple until you found another light. What is that other light?
My other light was Islam. While I was in prison, I was active my whole sentence, gun program, did all those things. And I lost my mother my last about year in prison. And I just reached for a happiness because there was a void. And I found it in Islam.
That's good, brother. That's real good. And of course, I'm sorry, from the bottom of my heart about your mother, man. It's a hard thing losing anybody, but losing somebody in prison, I can't imagine that. Fortunately, that hasn't happened to me. I've done about 10 years in prison and haven't lost anybody, thank God. But anyways, back to you and your story. So you grew up, where did you grow up at exactly?
I was born in Anchorage, Alaska, raised back and forth in Texas and in Alaska, came to Washington, and that's where I caught my charge, where I was gone for a while.
And what was your charge?
It was murder in the second degree. In the beginning, I was sentenced to 102 years. Went back on appeals, got a deal, and I got to come home.
That's good. That's good. So in your time up here, now is it true you've done Texas time, Texas DOC time as well, right?
Yes, I did. I did some time up there also for a gang-related homicide. But again, I'm living proof that appeal systems work. When I got to come home, I was only out 6 weeks.
I think I lost you, buddy. Hold on. Oh, okay, there you go. I lost you for a second.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
That's all right. So, anyways, you were back to what you were saying. You were out 6 weeks and what?
And then I caught another homicide in Washington.
Okay.
My friend, associate, folks, whatever we want to say, was robbed, and I happened to catch the enemy walking out of a Jack in the Box. I walked up, I shot the enemy, I looked at his wife and kids, told them to get in the car and go home.
And that was up here in Washington.
In the Tri-City, yeah, Kennewick.
Tri-City, yeah. Now, what was it like sitting in county jail with them talking about 102 years? What was your state of mind when you were thinking that you were going to do that much time?
Be completely honest, I kind of didn't care. I was kind of numb. I assumed I was never going to go home again. And I was okay with that. I was taught in the organization that that's what happened. You die or you go to prison. And I was okay with that.
So you get sentenced to, originally you get sentenced to the 102 years, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
Where do you go from county jail?
The county jail, after booking, we go to a unit called 302. And
302 is in the county jail, right?
yes, it is in the county jail.
So what I'm asking is, once you're sentenced and then you leave county jail, where did you go then?
We then went to a receiving prison. It was called Shelton Correctional. It's where they classify everybody and send them out. They look into gang affiliation. They look into your behaviors. They look at how you're holding yourself, even up to this point. And then that's where they classify you and send you to prison.
And what was your classification coming out of Shelton?
I was close custody. I immediately went to Walla Walla Penitentiary.
Now, for the audience, closed custody is the same thing as like what California has is a level 4 yard, or is what the YouTube prison channel realm would call a 4 yard. It's, you're locked down pretty much all day. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
23 and 1 hour rest.
Yeah. And then, so you go straight to closed custody, you go to Walla Walla. Now, when you first get to Walla Walla, what's going through your mind? Explain that bus ride from Shelton to Walla Walla, and then the images that you saw pulling up to Walla Walla.
When I pulled up to Walla Walla, I just remember fences, all that. I remember as we pulled up, seeing the walls. I remember thinking, I'm either going to make it here or I'm not. And at that moment, I chose that I was going to make it there. There were individuals on the bus that were asking me my affiliation, and I was letting them know. And it didn't appear that they were too fascinated about that.
And these individuals that were asking you about your affiliation, were they white?
I later come to find out that they were white by color, but they were skinheads. Yes.
Yeah. So they were white boys. They were skinheads.
Yeah.
And they were asking you about your affiliation. Now, when you get there, did Walla Walla remind you of like some medieval type stuff? Like, was it? I mean, did it seem like the castles that you see back in the medieval days and stuff, where these just brick castles and these towers and this? I mean,
most definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It did, and they just happened to move all the closed custodies and the gang affiliated over to a new building, and it was called the West Complex. And even when you walk into this new building, there's a hallway. You go left or you go right, depending whatever unit you're in. And it's like everybody's looking in the window, wondering what's up. And again, as soon as I got in, I was hit up immediately. The whites came up to me, immediately hit me up. I told them what I was, and they told me and directed me towards where I had to go.
And at that point, when they directed you to where you need to go, you went and saw, who'd you go and see?
There was an older cat there from Chicago, and I went and spoke to him. He had heard about that I was coming, and I introduced myself. He introduced me to the homies, and he said, "Who you in a cell with?" And it was crazy how the prison already knew where to house me, and that's why I did the beginning of my sentence was up there. My first about 2.5, 3 years, I went up there, and my appeal came back very, very quickly. You know what I mean? I lost my first appeal, and then years down the road, I got the last appeal, and they told me that I was coming home.
Did so them first few years before you knew you was going home, what was time like for you? What was your mindset? What was your daily routine?
Well, when I moved into my cell, I was also in a cell with a lifer, and who was also a G. And he told me, he was like, yo, these others might try to get on you, you know? So I caught my first program my second day there.
And a program is
active violence gang related.
Yeah, and a program is where they send you to the IMU. They call them IMUs up here, intensive management units, and you're in there for a period of time, and then they release you or whatever. So your second day there, you catch a infraction that sends you to the hole, and they give you a program.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And how long was your first program?
Our first program was 6 months.
6 months.
6
How
months.
How many programs did you do?
I did four. I did 4 before I got home, but they were starting to be spaced out. After a while, it was like both sides knew what I was willing to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it came to a point where, like, I even told the homies, like, man, I'll get anybody when I get out the hole, because I would have seen they would try to get me. But been a few times in the hole for fights, you know.
Yeah. And in the West Complex, the politicking up here in Washington State, I won't call it soft, because I don't believe that any state has any prisons that are soft. You know what I mean? I don't believe that that's a correct term. But the West Complex in particular, doesn't it? I mean, I know the Northerners and the Southerners are on site at war with each other 100% of the time. Was that the way it was?
They pay more attention to the Southsiders' violence and the North and the Southsider violence more than any other gang violence, because the Northerners are on one side and the Southsiders are on another side. I mean, building wise, like, they will not move Northerners when they're moving Southerners. That's just does not happen. 90% of the time, they'll get off the clothes yard and they'll be back within a week or two, because they're instructed. Never mind, that's not my politics to speak on. But they usually come right back.
Yeah. And they so for you yourself, as what the white boys call us as a Caucasian, or I've heard driftwoods before. I've heard all kinds of different terminology for white boys that's not affiliated with white gangs. Did you were you ever in fear of your life? Did you ever was you walking around with any type of steel on you at any time?
In close custody, I stayed with one. I had like 11 write-ups for possession of shanks. I was in and out of the hole for that. Once I got to medium, I mellowed out, but I still did, because I had so many years of clothes in my head. And I normally don't stay up. I normally didn't stay off clothes yard very long.
Yeah. How long total did you do? How much total time do you have in DOC?
Including Texas, altogether over 23 years.
Over 23 years. Did after Walla Walla, so you spent, how many years you spent in close custody?
I did 4 in the beginning. I came back, did another year, and then by that time, I ended up almost I got my appeal, and I got to come home the following year.
So after you left closed custody, where'd you go?
I went to Coyote Ridge, which is a medium yard, but it's an affiliated yard. You go to Coyote Ridge, it's still segregated. People got certain sides of their day rooms. You don't cross through their tables. You don't use their showers. Well, it's not so bad on the showers, but you don't cross through their day rooms. Usually one affiliation will call one shower and another affiliation call another shower, but you can use them all, but don't use that one. You just know.
Yeah. Is that like that with everything? Phones included? Phones, tables?
Phones, yeah. Phones are segregated. Yards are segregated. We're on one side of the yard. They're on the other side of the yard. The only thing that separates us is a big fenced cage.
Mm-hmm.
We all move at one time. They all move at one time.
Yeah. Coyote Ridge, I was actually in Coyote Ridge myself. And it was to me, it felt like I was on the moon. It's all that damn gravel. You know what I mean? There's no grass anywhere except for on the yard. There's gravel. It's all gray and gravel everywhere.
Yeah.
It felt like I was on the moon, man. But
only place where they'll rake some rocks.
Yeah, it does. It looks like it just rains rocks. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. And how long were you at Coyote Ridge?
Well, the first time, my co-defendant showed up off chain, and I was gone immediately. I took him offline on the way to chow.
Now, your co-defendant is would I be wrong to guess that your co-defendant told on you?
Yeah.
That's what happened, huh?
Yeah, all my co-defendants told on me.
So, if you were to tell younger homies, younger people in general, just people in general that think that they have a loyal fan base or a loyal group of people around them that they can count on for not telling on them, what would you tell them? What would you tell somebody that says, "Oh man, I know my crew ain't gonna tell on me"? What would you tell them?
I'll just put it this way: the only person I love and trust is myself.
Absolutely, yeah, yes. There's so much telling, there's so much snitching, there's so much of that going on. You know what I mean? And they've got it down to a science to where you don't even know you're being told on until 8, 9, 10 months, even a year down the road, and they've built this case against you. And the whole time, the person that you've been breaking bread with, the whole time that you've been riding with, doing dirt with, is the police, and you have no idea. You know what I mean? And it's
the sad
crazy.
Part is, if you take a deal, sometimes you'll never know.
Exactly. That's the other thing. So that's exactly that. Sometimes if you take a deal, you'll never know because it's crazy. The system in Washington State. I'm actually going to do a video later on about the corruption and the Washington State sentencing guidelines and just the way it works up here. How they just they'll get, okay, a guy gets into a little fight in a bar or whatever. They send him to county jail. He's got no points, never been in trouble. They'll say, boom, sign this deal, not knowing that there's a strike involved.
Right.
But all they hear is, you can go home today. You know what I mean? So they sign the deal. It's an assault too. It's a strike. You know what I mean? That happens a couple times. Listen, there's guys in prison that have never been to prison before that caught a life without because they done caught 2 assault twos. And even the sentencing guidelines on assault 2, the first one you get is 0 to 90 days. You know what I mean? And so then they catch 2 of those, they do some county time, and then they catch a robbery or another assault 2 or an assault 1, and now they got a life without and never been to the penitentiary.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what they do.
the system up here is just it's crazy, man. It doesn't make any sense. It makes sense for them. You know what I mean? It makes sense for them because it's all about money. It's all about, it's the more numbers you got, the more beds, the more prisons, the more dollars you get. You know what I mean? So, but back to, not to get off topic, but back to you and your story, man. I'd like to let the audience know, man. Like I said from the beginning, I know you, man. I've done time with you. I'll let you tell where we met and what the situation.
Well, I ended up going behind the walls with you, and a lot of people that were a part of our organization did not genuinely know about the organization.
Yeah.
That angered a lot of people. It's easy when you have a bunch of people that don't like you because they pulled their coattails, and it's just easy to be like, oh, he's not this, or he's that, or he's this, or he's that. But I was not a part of maybe what they were doing, but my part is still a part of what the whole mob was about.
Absolutely.
They wanted me, you know what I mean, to kind of like bow down and keep my mouth quiet or this and that, and that's just not my function.
Yeah.
And how I met you was me and you spit laps, and I tried to hip you to it. You know what I mean? And
yeah, absolutely.
You was definitely listening, and it came to a point where, I told you, I need to go ass over here behind the workout benches or what? And you were like, let me just go. Probably it's not one of the guys that you want to do it with. But I'm like, man, all right. If that's what needs to happen, that's what it is. And you made my movement a little bit easier. Now, granted, I wasn't there a long time. Like I said, I don't stay on those yards long. I always get in trouble.
Yeah.
And, I did. And, that's how I met you.
And just for the audience, just so they know, spinning laps is out on the yard. They got a big track, and you go out there, you go meet up with your guys, whatever, you walk around the laps, you sit, chop it up, you're timing, that's what you're doing. So that's what that spinning laps, that's just out on the yard, walking the track, chopping it up. I do want to bring I got a funny memory, man. This I want you to tell the time of your your locker being caught on fire.
Man.
Explain to the people what you were doing and what the situation and how that occurred.
Man, I was trying to make some ink. And
some ink for what? Explain for what?
I was trying to make some ink to do some tattoos.
Right.
And long story short, everything caught on fire. And
where was you?
I was somewhere else. I forgot I started a fire.
You was out at the yard with me. Oh my God.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember we're outside spinning laps, man, in the 6th wing, which is the dorm, which was the unit you was in, the 6th wing. They were bar units. They were, they had, it was like the old school prison, man. It's behind the walls, state penitentiary. You're in a cell with open bars and 6th wing. All I remember is the fire alarm going off in 6th wing. Everybody coming out of the yard. I said, "Oh man, Woody's locker done caught on fire." What did they give you for that?
Man, they tried to almost charge me with arson.
Yeah.
Yeah, they almost tried to charge me with arson. I ended up going back to Coyote Ridge. I was involved in a riot in Coyote Ridge, and they shot me right back to Walla Walla. 10 wing, right. West Complex.
West Complex. So the only prisons you've been in up here is Coyote Ridge and Walla Walla.
I went out to the Bay briefly, but they had slipped up. Washington had slipped up and sent my co-defendant out there. And they didn't put a keep separate. I don't know why. Or maybe he didn't request one. Who knows? But I was out there and I was walking my box, the B building, and who's coming out to wreck? I won't say no name,
Yeah.
but it was him.
Yeah.
And I dropped my box, asked the police to pick up my box and run it back to property. And of course, they put institutional separation.
Now, for the audience, keep separate is what they have up here in Washington, which is it's a joke. It really is, man. It's basically you can go in and say, I got beef with this person, or, co-defendants use it a lot. Co-defendants that, especially that's told on you, they'll in classification, in the beginning in the R units. Well, actually, I don't know. I think you can do it anywhere, but they'll go in and they'll tell their counselors or whatever, listen, I need to keep separate away from this guy. Now, I knew a guy who used this process because he didn't want to go to a certain prison or this and that. And I'm like, man, I don't know. That keep separate shit is weird. I had keep separates against me with people I didn't even know. I don't even know these people. You know what I mean? So it was probably from the same type of situation. They knew somebody that knew me or something, and they said, listen, you don't want to come to Walla, because I was at Walla Walla for a while. So that keep separate shit is weak, man. That's just weird to me. I don't understand that.
Especially in the state of Washington, it's because anybody can go in there, and if like you're a combative inmate, that if Joe Blow just wants to use my name, right before I got out of prison, I found out that I had 17 keep separate. They would not give me names, but I ain't got problems with that many people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
People just will throw names too, just if they know your name will get you a separate.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. So you get out, how long you been out of prison now?
I've been out of prison a year, 14, almost 13 months.
A year, so almost
16 months. Yeah.
So a little over 2 years.
No. 16. Wait, let me see.
16.
December's a year. January, February. Okay, so that's 15 months. 14,
15 months. Okay. So what's it been like for you since you've been out?
Okay, well, let me rewind it briefly. Before I was released from prison, my mother had passed away. My mother has always been a queen supporter in me and any of my brothers, even mischievous behavior since we were children.
Right.
And, I could do no wrong in my mama's eye. So my mother was dying in the hospital on life support. They took her off. They called, said that it was a matter of time before my mother passed away. And they allowed me to go. So I went. I have 2 guard escort, 2 extra guard escort, because I'm close cousin. Everybody was just fused out of the room, and I just leaned over, kissed my mom on the forehead, and told her to go, that I was done. And she passed away 3 minutes later. So when I went back, I kind of told the homies, I was like, look, man, I'm on some other shit. And if any of y'all want to get down, we can get down. And obviously, I had to chuck them a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Then they kind of fell back and just watched me to see if I was really going to try to teeter-totter. And I did not. I started to try to find myself. Even though I was a grown-ass man, I really needed to find a peace. because I knew I was an angry individual, and if I didn't address these anger issues, I would hurt someone again. I came to realize that not only did I hurt my victim's family, but I hurt my babies, and that my babies had to grow up without a father. Choices I made moved back my release dates. Choices I made did not allow me to be free and hug on my mama when she died. So when I came to get a peace was through Islam. I was trying to teach everybody about Islam before I got out of prison. Some of the homies was like, you know, some of the homies was like, he's really off that. I came home from prison. My wife, she'd been rocking me my whole prison bid. I immediately put a ring on that. And my whole life was about Islam. You know what I mean? To the point where I would get angry if they made noises when I did my prayers. To the point where I would lash out at my wife when she was loud. And I would just be like, man, I'm praying. Just be quiet. You know what I mean? Like, Islam became radically into my brain. It helped me to deal with situations as I came home. I came home. There were some homies that felt some kind of way. But this is the thing. I knew my ministry was in the hood. So I moved right back to the hood. I didn't try to dip and dodge, homies. None of that. Look, I'm in my old apartment complex. Come see me. I'm in the hood. I'm in the project. And, you know, and it kind of got funny. Cass was like, all right, here come Woody with his Quran. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would make these people listen. My little homies that I didn't even know that were still on the porches, you're going to listen. And if you don't listen, I'm going to beat you up. And that's just I kind of did. And now I'm more mellow. You know, I'm about to be let off supervision a year early. My PO tells me all the time, you're not who's in this paperwork. You're not. I have asked forgiveness to my victim's wife. You know, the child is older. I got on my knees so we could look eye to eye. And I apologize to that young boy for what I did. You know, Islam has just made me I won't say a perfect man, but definitely a lot better than I was.
Not bad. That's what this channel's all about, man. It's positivity. And I've had the honor to, you know, kick it with you since we've both been out. You know what I mean? I was over there where you're at last summer. We had a good old time. Yeah. And then the privilege came back around with you and your wife coming over to my side of the state. And you're a different man. You know what I mean? You're a changed man. The question that I have for you is, if you could go back to your 18-year-old self and talk to that individual, what would you tell him? What advice would you give him? And would you have changed anything at all?
Yeah. First off, I'm going to answer this in two separate ways. First off, I would change nothing that I've been through in my life because it made me who I am today. First. Second, if I could go back to that boy that was about to take a man's life, I would tell him this. Go hug your mom because you may never see her again. One. Two. If you're scared of who's telling you to go do this, come rock with me. Don't do what you're about to do.
That's deep. That's heavy, man. That's something to really, really sit and marinate and really think about, man. You know, I know that you're involved in a couple different programs. I know that you do. You know, you're obviously involved with the Islam, but what other programs are you involved in?
A really good friend of mine started the Thug program, and he allowed me to be a part of that. I try to be I try to do contributions in any way that I possibly can. I work with at-risk youth.
Can
I
you
work
break
with
it down?
at-risk youth.
Can you break it down? It's called the
Okay,
Thugs program.
it's called the Thugs program. Together, helping us grasp success through
Okay,
sobriety.
that's what's up. And what's his name? Give him a shout out.
His name is Shawn Miller.
Shawn Miller.
And he is the CEO of the Thug program. I'm a pawn, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I like that because I like working with the kids. I like to be active. But so is
Right.
this man. He does things for women. He does things for battered women in the community. And I know the old him,
Yeah.
as you know the old me.
Right.
And he's a completely changed man, brother.
That's what's up. And how would somebody what's he is he on Facebook or Instagram, or I think he is on Facebook. I'll leave in the description. I'll leave a link to his page as well. And you know, I just want to say, man, I appreciate it, man. It's been an honor, man. My first interview that I've done. You know, always salute you, my guy. And
Already,
you know, it
already.
was good having you on the show on the channel, bro. Um, and for me, you know, my message is this. You know, if it ain't positive, and if it ain't about making money, you know what I mean, and taking care of your kids and your grandkids, and you know what I mean. If it ain't about that, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean. And so I appreciate you coming on my channel, man. And you know, I'd like to see, hopefully one day you'll get one of these channels started, man, and we can you know, flip the script. So
Already.
I'll be in touch with you, man.
All right, brother. I love you.
All right, love you too, bro.